Because Emma's here. Hey, you're live.
I'm not bad luck.
Hello, YouTube. I look so much bigger than
Sorry.
like, whoa. All right. Good morning,
You're just
YouTube.
super tall.
Yeah, that's me. That's what people think of when they see me. She is so tall. All right. Be professional. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Something Real. We have a little different show today. You didn't immediately hear Rich's voice, so that's how you know it's automatically different, because he didn't say something irrelevant. That's usually me. I'm usually bringing in the 90s references that don't matter. And I will continue to do that today to the best of my ability, even though Rich isn't here to banter with me. But I do have two very special guests today. I have Emma Zeiger and Miss Sarah Hanich from Imagine Worship. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. This isn't the first time either one of you have been on the podcast. Have you ever been here in person, Sarah? Okay, good.
No,
Yay.
fun. Oh, fun.
I'm excited. So yeah, we are obviously doing something a little different today. If you noticed, if you're an avid listener of the podcast and you noticed that there wasn't a sermon upload on Sunday, that's because we had Imagine Worship come and perform for us and worship with us this last week, and it was wonderful as always. So I'm glad to have you both here. We're glad to continue to do this with you every year, and it's one of my favorite services of the year. And I think this might have been the first time that my son got to watch it, at least that he would remember. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I think it's good that we leave the kids up here and they're able to see that different side of worship as well. So with that in mind, if you guys want to, Sarah, if you want to do a brief introduction of Imagine Worship and what it is for those who don't know. I don't even think we had the live stream going on Saturday because we've done that in the past, and Sony doesn't like it when we use the song, so they kind of mute everything anyway. But is there anywhere that people who might not be local could check it out, or anything you want to say to introduce what Imagine Worship is?
Sure. So Imagine Worship is out of Dance Arts in Stevensville. And yeah, we've been around since 2010. And so, yeah, we're excited that this is our 14th year. Just being able to teach dancers how to pair their Christian walk with their dance life and see that there's actually an overcross and a total weave in. And so, yeah, if you're not local, you can go to our website, Dance Arts. www.dancearts-sdt or S in studio dt.com. And yeah, on that website, we have a little tab that says about Imagine and what we do. But again, the biggest thing is that we just love to worship, and I'm super thankful that you guys are always willing to open your doors, because I know it's different service, and I know that it means that there's extra things that have to happen or shorten things or whatnot. But I think it's always really fun to come and especially be a part of a church that A, welcomes us, but B, is so understanding of different forms of worship, and then C, it's just fun because it's Emma's dad's church. And so as a leader in Imagine and as a dancer, it's just fun to be able to be like, this is my home. And it's like having friends over, and that same idea. So that was really fun and special.
Now you took over Dance Arts when? Remind me.
This is my 4th year.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. But it's been in your family for a long time.
Yeah. My mom, I think, was 22 when
wow.
she took over. So she's the 3rd owner. The studio's been around since 1958. So we just celebrated 65 years last year. Yay. Yeah. So yeah, very proud to say that I'm in this legacy of this small town business. But again, also just that realization of small town anything
for sure,
but being able to survive, especially as we just got through all the pandemic and knowing
so you took over
right? I 1-year-old. I don't know what I was thinking,
and then the pandemic hit.
So long. I feel like it just happened.
Wow. Oh yeah, no,
the pandemic years just don't even
right. Well, and that was that was right at Rhonda's end, but I think that's kind of her last straw. She's like, and I'm
out.
But she did a great job of again setting us up well. All of us as
and she's still involved.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. She was very resourceful and had always a good savings. So like all of us were able to still get paid throughout all of that,
nice.
Which was nice because we all had
Families
financial
and
commitments to
right,
be attended
for
to.
sure.
But yeah, no, it's been good. We've done 2 big recitals and 1 mini recital, and this year will be a mini recital. But yeah, the Imagine Worship bit of it is just so special because again, they're just learning. They're learning how to express because again, we like to express. Sometimes it's just that freedom of expression and free dance. But I think it's so special that they get to see that like what they're learning in the Bible, here's how we can portray it in dance and like be able to do that right away.
For sure. So with being a part of dance arts for so long, what was the thing that made you think, we need this separate entity as part of dance arts? Like what triggered your idea for Imagine Worship? And you thought, this is something that I want to pursue and I want, others to share with.
Yeah. Well, in 2010, when we started, it was more or less like, hey, we had a couple of people asking us to dance as like a post-church gathering. And my mom and I had always been asked to dance like for Christmas and Easter kind of things. And we loved it. But it was usually just us. And it was like the token 2 dancer girls. And it was for only like the big church events. And I think what actually kind of propelled a lot forward was we went to a Pulse Festival back in the day when it was in the big open fields. And so you weren't even alive. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh
gosh, baby, I know.
I was alive.
You were alive, but yes.
So like she was born the year I graduated, which is just,
we like to talk about that a lot.
I feel like I was on the Oregon Trail.
Oh my goodness. That's
anyway.
I do remember her as a little thing, but yeah, so just wanting to be able to like really outwardly express what we were like, kind of like not a baptism because I don't want to like make it be the same thing, but definitely Ron and I were discovering that our faith was needing to be a lot louder, or again, just that there was no shame in how we felt like the Lord asked us to worship. I remember in 2010, that summer I went to audition for a Christian dance company down in Houston, and the audition process was intensive 7 days before, and then the audition was at the end. And just seeing like people like literally in the middle of a church service, just like dancing in the hallway, in the aisles, in like anywhere up, like pastors like leading, and they're just moving. And I was like, oh, okay. I was taught you kind of like sit down and follow the rules, and I'm definitely a rule follower. But it was so bizarre. But at the same time, I was like, oh yeah, this is what heaven's probably going to be like. People are just moving and grooving and doing it. And it was just so cool. That dance company, ADAM, has been around for decades, very thriving in the Houston area, but they just opened my eyes to see that like, this is just like an overflow of who you are inwardly. That's why I guess I related to a baptism, because it's what's happening inside, but it's just an overflow outside. And so then that idea of just being like, okay, well, how else can we do this? We gathered a small group. It was called Illusions on the first or 2 seasons maybe. And that was kind of, I was not living around here. So I was just coming in and kind of dabbling a little bit. I was living in Chicago, and then, but yeah, just like that draw of being able to say, okay, what else can we do? And then just the Christian music was just like, I felt like, again, maybe it was just me new in that genre, but like, I just felt like it was exploding with ideas and content and things that actually people could resonate and hear. And Ron and I started just pretty much listening to Christian radio only exclusively around that time too. And just being like, wow, there's so much that the Lord is saying through these people expressing their thoughts. And then how can we come alongside that and use movement to again, tell stories. So yeah, it's been good.
And you've seen, and I guess from what I've seen, just seeing in the last few years, it seems to be continually growing.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, how many would you say you started with after you opened it up to others?
Yeah. I seem to remember like we had like 3 or 4.
Okay.
And then that was like 8 or 9. And then, this year we're at 23. I believe last year we had 24.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it makes it challenging because all of a sudden I'm like, I don't have enough costumes. Costumes for that many people and that many different ranges of sizes, because the other thing is it's open to anybody. And
that's the cool. Like you see these little girls, and then
and we dance in small spaces everywhere.
Like, you're up here. I'm like, oh, don't hit the drum.
Yes, I know, right? All the things.
Emma kicked a girl drum.
I know.
I was like, oh, was that
okay? It was beautiful.
It was. She kicked me and another.
It's all love.
And we do that as dancers. We just have to realize that like if I accidentally do hit you, it's fine.
Right.
We'll say a sorry after we're done. Just understood sorries for anything that happens. But yeah, we do have a large group, and it's been good to see that. And I guess to go back to your question of why that entity, it was just, again, just the seeing that there was a need of people who were very much like knowing their faith. We had a lot of adult dancers at that point who were like willing to step in and dance as well. Jessica Maynard being one of them. She's a missionary now with her family. And just being able to just, again, show that that's part of their dance life. And there's so many different Christian dance companies that's what they do. And again, just be able to have that represented, because again, we think dance, we think professional dance, we think stages, we think like fame, glory.
Sure.
But the fame and glory really goes to him. So just being able to kind of redirect that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to pursue like the world in the dance world, but we still have to be teaching the kids how to stay humble and how to actually like know what your limit is, what your boundary is. What are you going to do that you feel like you as a person can do or should do, and creating those healthy boundaries, because there's a lot of the yuck, obviously, and things that have gone awry in the dance world. So
for sure. So Emma, we were commenting on how much of a baby you are. So you started dance at a young age.
Yep, 3.
So yeah, obviously that was, I mean, I'm sure that you were excited about it at the time, but obviously, it was your parents' decision to put you in that arena. So at what age did you join Imagine Worship? Trivia. I don't know. So you can tell me anything.
I don't think I was allowed to for the first like part of my younger ages because I was in competitive gymnastics.
Oh.
And then I still joined while I was in competitive gymnastics. So I don't really know why that rule existed when I did it anyway. I think I was 7 or 8 or 9,
Okay,
that range.
That range. Okay. And then as you kind of, I guess, came into your own and got into your teenage years, you continued to be not only involved in it, but now you're part of the leadership role there. And so what would you say? I'm going to call you an adult. What would you say as an adult has, I guess, what you've seen over your growth through there? Because I think it's cool that you've done it from such a young age to now. What's been your experience with it? What kind of personal growth have you experienced with it? What kind of growth have you seen in the program, and what have you gotten most out of it?
I think the biggest growth and like kind of changing moment is realizing the community aspect of it. So like all of my best friends in Imagine, when we started figuring out that we can worship together and that we can do it in our common area, which is dance, it became so much more real. And it, like, instead of just being like a little girl who gets to go, twirl on a stage, it turned into like, oh, you love the Lord and I love the Lord and we both love dance. So now we can do it together. And so finding that community with all of my people. And then now we take that, and when we'll be at youth group or something, and we'll just start dancing to worship music. So it kind of turns into an overflow everywhere.
Very cool. So when going back to what you said, Sarah, about, you and your mom are listening to almost exclusively Christian radio. I think that there was one thing I noticed, I think for the first time, and maybe I just don't pay close enough attention, this last Sunday. I don't even remember what song it was. It was the one about Saul, I think. There was like a different song cut in at the beginning, and then it moved to a different. And I really like that, connection of bringing in other pieces to tell a story. But how do you go about figuring out what that's going to look like and sound like? And you're like, how do you do song selections and pull it together to create a story through each piece? Because this was my son's first year in dance this last year. And one thing I loved about the recital was that it told a story from beginning to end. And obviously not every recital is like that. I took dance as a kid in a different studio, and, it was just song, 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 song. And it was all just separate pieces. So telling a story, not only like a marching story, but through each individual piece, I think really connects with, and that particular piece really connected with me. But the song selection, I feel like, is such a huge part of that. So how do you go about, if you have a limited number of dances, and, how do you start with the song selection first and then kind of come up with the movement, or do you have ideas in your head about what story you want to tell and then find a song to match?
Yeah.
That was a long question.
No, it's a great question, because I feel like every time you sit down, like an artist, every time they're sitting in front of that canvas, they're like, okay, what do you want, Lord? Or if they're not a Christian, what do I want?
Sure.
But I feel like every time I sit down to think about a piece, it's interesting. I have like in my phone, like a running list of like thoughts. Maybe it's a sermon, maybe it's just like a visual. And so I just kind of always have this running list. And so I told Emma, I was like, I have this idea about a conversion story, taking the story from the Bible of Saul to Paul. But then the more that I went through it, I feel like, again, a lot of our dancers are very much walking believers, and they understand the Bible because they've grown up knowing the Bible, reading the Bible. And so it was like, I don't really necessarily need to tell the idea of the story of conversion. I feel like I need to tell the story of what we all experience of when we hear something. And I didn't say this well enough on Sunday, but in that context of like, when I know that I've had an experience with the Lord, an interaction, or I know I've heard something from the Lord, do I believe it till the end? Or is it are there some moments of doubt of, are you sure? Like, it seems like a really hard thing to do. Like, and we all do that, or at least I do, of doubting the Lord and what the Lord wants for us. And so I feel like, with that piece, I really wanted to tell like that part of the story. So that's where it drove the song selection. I literally will just jump on whatever streaming platform of music that I'm listening to. But I will just jump on there and just like listen for hours. And I do have a running list, thanks to Aunt Heidi. Shout out to Heidi Clark. She usually sends me like her list of song ideas that she loves that's happening right now. Or then just like, let's throw it back to like, this is a great song of worship, back in 2001 or whatever.
She listens to this podcast at, I think, either 1.5 or 2 times speed, which floors me because everything must just sound like Gilmore Girls to her.
That is funny.
So yeah, she will listen to this. But,
anyway. Well, thanks, Heidi. Yes, sometimes you're my inspiration too. You're like, hey, I heard the song. But honestly, as far as Saul to Paul, that was just like combing through. And I'm so glad that, again, we have digital music that I don't actually have to go to a record store. I don't have to go through a CD rack. And we have dressers of CDs at the studio. Emma can attest. They're lots of CDs at the studios, but just being able to like comb through music that I really feel like, and I only took sections, but so just being able to edit that. And so that's kind of one of the tasks as a dance teacher or choreographer is you also have to be really good at editing music. And it's not to discredit the composer or whoever, but it's again to get that right moment because you only have a certain amount of minutes. This piece in particular, we're taking to a convention called Dance Revolution in January. And so we know that we had a 3-minute mark that we had to hit. And because of that, the level of excellence at this place that we go to is just so high. And because they're so big on storytelling and sharing the gospel through movement, which isn't necessarily like in your face, super literal. I felt like we really kind of needed to bring that kind of idea this year too, where it's not necessarily a Christian song. The first year we went to Dance Rev, it was about a summer vacation because I had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And we were definitely the outliers. It was cute and happy and appropriate and all the things, but it was nothing like everybody else. And so fun, because again, you can worship the Lord talking about a summer vacation too, but we didn't realize what we were stepping into. And now after being there for, I think this will be our 9th or 10th year, going, okay, this is what we need to like, this is not necessary to formulate or to fit in, but this is like a way of showing what we're doing right now. Otherwise, songs usually inspire me. And then movement comes after. There are lots of times where I'll have a phrase of movement that I'll like see in my head, either while I'm driving or it'll be like something that I'm coming out of my sleep in the morning. I'm like, oh, that's a really cool phrase movement. And so then I will write it down or try to record myself doing it in my jammies or whatever in my living room.
You got more energy than me in the morning. I'm like,
but it's only because if you don't do it.
True. Right.
But yeah, so most time it's music driven or story driven, but otherwise, if it is a Christian song, it's usually, I just pray. I'm like, Lord, as I'm driving, I'm like, Lord, what song do you really want for this group this year? And usually I'll hear it 3 or 4 times, either within a day or maybe a day and a half. And I'm like, okay, got it. You want that story. And like, literally, I'm so thankful because he'll just be like, this song, Sarah, it's this song. And then I'll look through our costume collection. Cause usually that's the other thing. It's I have to make sure that do we have something that will work with this, or do I need to like know that I have to budget for something like that, especially with a group of 23? Yeah, those group pieces I always have to have more costumes, which we have a wide array of costumes in our studio, but sometimes not all that match. But anyway, yeah. So I guess to answer your question, music usually comes first, sometimes movement, but also just like praying and as the Lord would have whatever story. And again, each year the group is slightly different. I mean, there's like the overalls that are always there, but there's always people that have to come in and come out. And again, it's open to anybody at our studio. It's open to any age. So it's just fun to see how the Lord uses that to work through them. And yeah, where they get cast is also interesting, because this year we did more of a casting.
Yeah.
And so just being able to go, okay, if this group of people, if you had this group of people, what story or what song do you really feel like would fit them? Because developmentally or emotionally, or just knowing their story, knowing their walk and what fits in with what they're in right now. So
I'm gonna ask you kind of a similar question. So going from student to, you've done your own, you've choreographed other pieces and other classes now. What's your process, especially when it comes to Imagine Worship? Because I know you've choreographed, contemporary pieces as well. But what's your process then for choreographing for Imagine Worship?
Very different than Miss Sarah. Very type A type of person.
Good. We bounce each other out.
Good.
Probably get my ways more from Miss Rhonda of like.
Oh yeah, you are Miss Rhonda.
A lot of the time, okay, so especially for the senior piece that we did with the shirt one, that song, I did not actually want to do that song. But then Evie and I were watching these like workout videos, and they kept using that song. And I was like,
so that was the Lord telling you to use this song?
I was like, man, I really actually like this song. And then I kept thinking about it, and we started doing it. And so what happened is I just played it in the car over and over again, got some general movements, but then for that one, I literally made it up with them in rehearsal.
Oh, well.
Because I'm a visual person, and I have to see them. Miss Sarah's more
so you're
organized.
Not sitting there writing down each.
Yeah, most of the time. For the littles, I did that because it's, what they can do. But with the older ones, I definitely did it with them at the time.
Cool. Do you find that when you're working on a piece, do you do what you do? You watch yourself do it before you put it out there to everybody else?
Record myself a lot, which sometimes will make me just hate myself, but it helps. Because
that's how I feel listening back to myself on this. I'm like,
yes, it's like the same thing.
Gross.
Like the same thing. But I'll set it up in my basement, and then because I can never remember the things that I do, so I'll improv to the song. I'm like, oh, I really like that. What did I just do? So I record myself, and then I'll rewatch it.
Well, I'm going to ask you, because we have about 7 minutes left. So I'm going to ask both of you. Sarah, I'll start with you. In the time from conception to now, what would you say has been the best experience that you've gotten out of Imagine Worship? Has it been, have people, I'm sure you've had tons of people come up to you and tell you how great it is, but do you feel that you've, reached people in a different way that they might not otherwise get from, like you said, you in church, many of us are just taught to kind of, sit there with our hands folded. And so this is a different experience, whether you're at a church or a nursing home or, wherever else you might perform. I have to imagine that you've seen what you're doing for people and in this way of worship, almost giving permission to worship in this way. And, being in the band here at church, I know there are some people in the congregation who probably would prefer that we play, traditional hymns on the piano and whatever. And that's fine. I love those are beautiful things. But have you seen, just how impactful that it can be with people who might not otherwise feel like they would get this experience?
Yeah, I feel like I've seen both through the dancer's eyes and then through the audience eyes.
Sure.
And then even as a director, I've felt change and seen change. I would say as far as like an audience member observing or engaging is our goal, always to engage them. It's not just a performance.
Sure.
That's part of our mission. I'd say I feel their joy, and it all. So going back to the inception of Imagine, it all also started with this idea of dancing in church, but it also came from my grandmother, who was in a nursing home, which is Miss Rhonda's mom, and she was in a nursing home. And again, just feeling that like loneliness. And even if they have family coming to see them every day, that's not their home. That's not their people. As a 70-year-old, making new friends and like having to put yourself out there, like to go to bingo with the neighbor that you live next. I mean, that's just,
right. Sure.
That's a lot. And seeing that there is a limited amount of people who will come in. And so I would say just seeing their joy of like, oh, like even if they don't understand that we're talking about Jesus, just seeing their joy of being like, great, there are young people that want to be here with me right now. Or, wow, that was so striking because yes, I do know Jesus, but wow, I haven't thought about that in ages. Or like the other end of it of like, yeah, I do believe in the Lord. And I'm so thankful to see this next generation also believing in the Lord. So kind of that like spread of feelings, but also as the dancers, I feel like I've seen their boldness. A couple years ago, Pastor Rich helped us go out and prepare us to go evangelize. And we did some of that on the street, just downtown New Buffalo, downtown St. Joe, and just being able to say, I'm out here today. We're a part of Imagine Worship. We're praying. Can I pray for you for anything right now? Or, and just having conversation. And again, that being real with people, I feel like I've just seen a change in the dancers' hearts of being like, if we don't share this, like it's the best news ever. And that song that we did on Sunday, Good News, it is the good news and it comes from his word, which is why we use the Bible. But again, just seeing that change of being like, okay, I'm going to put myself in an awkward situation where I'm going to ask something. And then they're, 60 years old and they're going to say, no, thank you. Or, oh, you're so sweet,
Right.
Or a teenager, like, again, being with your peers, putting yourself out there is always hard, but especially when it's something that could be controversial or could be seen as different. Just seeing their heart change and seeing that they like really genuinely do want this or do want to share it. And then even as a director, I've seen how the Lord's grown my boldness, not only for telling people about Jesus, but actually like feeling like I'm never gonna be a preacher. That's not where the Lord has gifted me, but I can appreciate and feel more comfortable talking in front of large groups. I wouldn't say I had felt like that when I graduated college, and just being able to really like share my heart with people as we are, telling people about Jesus and being able to introduce people, but also just the Lord, like the softening, or even how the Lord has used these different songs to minister my heart. Cause I have a messy life too. And like, there's things I wish that were fixed that are not. And so just knowing that the Lord's always working through that for me too. And that song in this moment, it represents this, and this moment, it represents this. And so just letting it be almost like as a comfort or as therapy too, has been really good for me.
Emma, do you remember the question?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
I think the biggest thing that I've experienced in Imagine would be kind of like what you said, the transformation in the dancers. And I like just seeing in myself and my peers around me, like the incentive to worship now, rather than just this is another dance experience. It became, we want to worship. And it's really special to see. I remember specifically last year, one of our dancers, I remember her having a lot of transformation moments in that. And then we would sing like in our dressing room, usually some random room in a nursing home, we'd start singing. Our main song was Gratitude last year, and we would just sing it while we were getting ready, and just like things like that. And then at our night of worship, when we decided to make a little worship band too before we danced, and that was all dancers' choice. Like we just decided we wanted to worship more. And so seeing how it builds that up is really beautiful.
Well, I think kind of going back to what you said as well, I think there's a misconception that evangelizing is strictly, you have to be that street corner preacher, and you have to go up to someone and be like, hey, do you know about Jesus? But there are so many ways to evangelize others. And even if you I'm sure you have experiences that you've seen it, but even if you didn't see it, I'm sure that what you guys have done over the years, I mean, you've spoken to people through movement. And I think it's important for all of us who follow Christ to recognize that there's not just one concrete way to evangelize. So, and with that, we're coming to a close here, but I did want to say, dance arts in general, Imagine Worship is a part of that, but I don't think, and maybe this is just my small town mind, but I don't think that you can find many high caliber dance studios, at least in this area, where that even if you're not going to be specifically in this group, that you're going to go to this studio and you're not going to see provocative movements or
You better not.
or oh gosh, we almost made it. Or costumes that are showing things they shouldn't, or song choices that are questionable for younger kids or whatever. And for people who are especially sending young children there to start their dance careers from the ground up, you don't get a lot of that, in any kind of activity nowadays, whether it's sports or, a drama club or music or whatever. And so that's a comfort, I think, and I don't like to use the word safe space, but it is a safe space for people of all ages to go and experience. And I think no matter what, you feel that it is, you feel the love of Jesus when you're there. And so I want to commend you for that, especially for creating that environment. So yeah, real quickly, before I start crying for some reason, because I'm a giant weeper. If you, I know you have Night of Worship coming up. So if you want to plug that or anything else Imagine Worship has going on, or anything Dance Arts has going on, this is your chance to do it.
Oh, well, so for Imagine Worship, already the real life youth group will be coming. So it'd be great for the rest of the congregation to come too. But in 2 Sundays.
Called out.
So the 27th, 29th. At the chapel, we have 2 shows.
That's in St. Joe.
Yes, in St. Joe. And it's a great time. You can see all of the dancers, but to their full potential, because we have a little bit more space to move. And it's just kind of our culmination of the end of the year. And we get to worship all together.
And we'll have more information about that on our social media pages and things like that if you attend Real Life. And if you don't, and you're anywhere in the Berrien County area,
come. It's a free show. And so we want everybody to come worship again corporately from all the different churches, all the different walks of life. We just want it to be an open space for everybody to, again, engage with the Lord.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you guys, Emma and Sarah, again for joining me today. We always have fun having you on. Any parting? Would you want to plug Dance Arts real quick?
Dance Arts.
Is your moment.
No, we're blessed to do what we love to do. And yes, we always want to guarantee that it's a safe space, but also that it's family friendly. And it's for all ages. It's from 0 all the way through adult. Our oldest student is 78.
Nice.
And so, dance is for everybody. So come and join us at Dance Arts in Stevensville.
I feel 78 at times. With that, we are going to send off. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch you next time.
Stacey, sometimes you scare me.
We're still live on YouTube. YouTube is used to it. Bye, YouTube.
YouTube doesn't like me.
YouTube, yeah, right.
Sometimes you scare me to get older because